Hi everyone, Stepan here. Today I'm going to show you a game I played just a few days ago. After this game there will be no more games in the Road to GM series for a while because I will have covered all the games I played recently, and my next tournament starts in 2 weeks. So in about 3 weeks time the series is going to continue. In round 12 of the third Croatian league I faced Goran Antunac, an international master whom I've actually defeated when we faced each other in the first league about a month ago. I didn't know I was going to play him because there was a higher chance that I face their second board, usually second board, Brigljevich Milan, whom I've also faced and drew 2 months ago, a FIDE master. But I knew that it was possible that I would play Antunac. And he mostly plays system openings with white, not like the London system or something like that, but setups. And he usually plays something in between a Queen C2, Catalan and Queen's Gambit with Queen C2 and stuff like that. So it's nearly impossible to prepare exact move orders against him. You cannot, it's not the same as if you were preparing for an Alekhine or a Khan Sicilian. You can just, okay, I'm playing this line. There could be many different openings played and many transpositions, as happened in this game. So he opened with d4. I went d5, Nf3 Nf6, c4 c6, and he plays the immediate Queen c2. The immediate Queen c2 can be punished, sort of, but the resulting position and the resulting possible complications are not something I would like to allow. So the way to punish Queen c2 is to take, and after Queen c4 to play Bishop f5. So you're basically playing a Caro-Kann / Scandinavian against a Catalan setup after g3, e6, Bishop g2, Knight Bd7, castles, Bishop e7. And white should always be slightly better. It's as simple as that. White has a nice plan of attacking via the b file. c5 is very risky in positions with the bishop on g2. You would have to go like Queen c7, Rook c8, castles, Rook d8. I'm not saying black is much worse, but it's always slightly more pleasant for white to play. And I'm not a big fan of these positions. Usually I don't like playing the Caro-Kann against fianchetto setups. And against fianchetto setups, I play something slightly different. After Queen c2, I could also choose to go g6, which is simply a setup I don't play. I could play Bishop g4. There are several options, but I just played e6, which is the position I'm most comfortable with, going into a sort of closed Catalan, or transposing into a closed Catalan. After g3, again, there are normal moves I could have played here. dc4 would go into an open Catalan. Knight Bd7 would be the mainline closed Catalan idea. Also Bishop e7 or Bishop d6. I chose a slightly uncommon move, Bishop b4. And here's why. I was intending to play a Stonewall, which may sound strange because I don't usually play the Stonewall. I don't play... I play the classical Dutch. And I play the Queen's Indian with f5, but I don't usually play the Stonewall. And for some reason in this game I wanted to play the Stonewall. My opponent played Knight Bd2, which makes the most sense. I castled, he played Bishop g2, and I continued Knight e4. The idea is to play the Stonewall with f5. He castled, and I got scared. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, when I went over this game with my coach, he of course criticized my next decision, and rightfully so. My next decision is just bad. If I was looking at someone's game and he played the move I played next, I would say, well, why did you do that? You just wasted too much time and gave your opponent a free hand. And that's absolutely true. I didn't play f5, I got scared. Not of anything particular, just of playing a risky position against a very strong player. So of course, f5, I know the Stonewall enough to be able to play it, and I think I would not mess up out of the opening. So let's say knight e5, let's say knight d7, let's say knight df3, maybe bishop to d6. I would be fairly comfortable in this position. I think I have to transfer my bishop to this diagonal, maybe trade off the knight, put pressure on e2, start a kingside attack. I mean, there's a way to play this position which isn't easy and involves a lot of risk, but if you're playing for a win, then you have to do stuff like that. When I decided not to play f5, I have two options. I can take on d2 or go knight f6. Knight f6 seemed slightly worse than taking, so I took. And now basically I wasted 2 tempi for absolutely nothing. And white is simply better. And I knew that, but I thought it was less risky. But I'm ashamed of this decision, and I'm just trying to explain why I wasted 2 tempi. It's not as if I didn't understand I was wasting them. I knew that, and I knew this was bad considering opening principles, but I thought it would give me better chances than actually playing the stone wall, which means that bishop b4 was a bad idea, knight e4 was a bad idea, and so on. Okay, knight d7, e4, of course, white is better, gets to play e4, takes, knight f6. Rook d1, defending the d4 pawn. I played rook e8. In the event of d5, I want to have some pressure on the e file. And here he played a great thematic move, c5. And now I realized that it's not a small advantage. It's actually a considerable advantage in which, against which, I mean, his position is so good that I could be losing. I thought I may just be losing at this point. So the threat is obvious. He wants to play knight d6 at some point, maybe not immediately. And I basically have to prevent that. If I don't prevent that, then I'm getting destroyed. So I snap the knight off immediately. I don't want to allow that. Bishop e4. And here I can play h6 or g6. h6 has to be better. I played g6 again instantly, which is a bad idea, and he played h4, and this is just bad. On a high level, meaning his level, white is just winning. Why is white winning? I have no way to prevent h5, and let me just show you. I played bishop a5. Let's say he plays h5. And I play a natural move, I don't know, queen d7 trying to defend. Well, he just wins. It's just over. He just destroys me. I don't have queen g7 because the rook is hanging, so rook e8 was bad. And once I play something like king f8, he has bishop here. And if I go here, then king g2. So that's an example continuation. So after h5, I would have had to play either f5, which obviously is not good positionally, or something bad like queen f6, which runs into bishop f4 and bishop e5. So maybe queen g7, takes, bishop e5, queen h6, and again just king g2 and rook g1, and I resign. Fortunately for me, he didn't win here. He fairly quickly played bishop g5, which now gives me enough time to actually defend. I played queen d7, which is a move I have to play to defend. The sacrifices don't work as well because he still hasn't played h5, of course. h5 now, but now I have time for bishop d8. And after takes, now my rook is not hanging. hg, it's not the same thing. It's just the sacrifices don't work. He could have played king g2, and I analyzed this position after the game, not during the game. e5, d5, and then queen h3, king g1, and bishop e6, giving up a pawn. But okay, after rook d6, maybe I have king g7 and rook h8 ideas. So yeah, this could have been playable. He played queen c1, and now I have time to defend everything. Now the position is strategically better for white because my bishop is bad, but it should be equal because I get to defend everything and then slowly either play e5 or b6, defend my bishop, and he's actually the one with the weakness on d4. So my strategic idea is to play queen f6 here, put enough pressure on the d4 pawn that he's forced to go on the defensive, and then challenge the h file with my rooks. That's what happened. Queen e7, I'm not too scared of queen h6 because I have queen f8, again accomplishing what I want to do. So here, here, and here. He played queen f4, but that's no problem. He wants to prevent queen f6, but I just play king g7. Yeah, I missed an opportunity here to actually be better. I didn't even consider this, just rook d4. It's a very simple tactic, which I saw when I was analyzing the game. It's just rook takes and then pawn here. And his best is rook d8, queen e5, but now bishop g4, and my pieces are, well, my bishop is not bad. Black should be more than equal here. I think black's position is slightly more pleasant. In any case, after queen f4, I just continued instantly with king g7 and then queen f6. And he played queen e3, bishop d7, challenging the h file, challenges it back. I play rook a to d8. So if he does nothing, maybe bishop c8 and pressure on d4. So I survived. He missed his opportunity to destroy me. I was just dead out of the opening. Okay, so how can white try and win? Obviously, he's an international master. He lost to me the last time we played. He wanted to crush me. That's understandable. He missed the opportunity to crush me out of the opening, which I'm sure he knew, because I knew it. He had to know it. He went b4. I went bishop c8. Now he either plays rook d1 and settles for a king on h1, or he trades first. And I have to take with the rook, I think. I don't have time for king takes because rook h1, king g7, queen h6, and maybe I'm not getting mated, but I don't want to allow that for a pawn, even if I get to take the pawn. a4, rook h5, I want to go e5 if he allows me, but he doesn't allow me. He plays rook h1. I could have played e5 straight away. This was interesting. And after queen e5, bishop h3 check, king g1, bishop g4, with the idea of bishop f3 and rook h1. But it doesn't really work. He has time for bishop d1, and then I just go bishop e6 and maybe something like this. Even though white's a pawn up should be equal, because d4 is hard to defend. But after a4, I went rook h5, expecting a rook trade. I don't think he has a way to decline it. So takes, bishop d7, king g2, a6. And before a6, I thought for a long time. This was my longest thing in the game, I think. I played a6 because I knew that there was no way to win this position anymore for white. Obviously, I cannot play for a win myself with the bishop on d7. And after a6, I don't even have to open up my bishop. There's only one way to try and complicate things, which I analyzed before playing a6, and that's g4. So here's the thing. If his queen gets to e5, then I lose, because the queen enters and I lose everything. So g5 is the threat. So I just play g5 myself. There is no problems on the light squares, really. I have too many threats of my own. If he infiltrates, and best case he wins the b7 pawn, if he does something like this, and then here and here, my king would be safe on e7, and I would start picking off these pawns. So that's really no threat. He plays bishop d1, and now if I want to hold the position, I can just hold the position. I can just go bishop c8, bishop d7. There's actually no way for white to make progress. We analyzed the game afterwards, and both Mr. Antunac and I concluded the same thing. My coach concluded the same thing 2 days ago. There's just no way to win. So I played king h6, which has a threat of playing queen f4, which maybe black is slightly better. He doesn't have to allow queen f4, but if he does, for example, then queen f4. He doesn't have e5, he has to take, otherwise I take either here or here. Takes, and after king f3, I go here and then follow it up with f5. I'm not sure who is better, but I would much rather be black, because it's very hard to defend the g4 pawn. He probably has to go bishop d1 with the idea of king e4, but then I just go f5, and after he takes, I take with the king. If he checks me away, then again, this seems to be nice for me. If he advances here, yeah, okay, I take with the pawn. I just don't want to allow an infiltration, and yeah, I'm not sure I would want to be black anymore. I think it's equal, but I still think black is perfectly fine. I have this plan. of chasing the king away and then trying to win the f2 pawn. So that was the way to wait in this to try and win if he allows queen f4, but he plays king g3. And now here is how black can draw. I did not play this, but this is what I knew, this is what I'd analyzed before a6, and this is what we both looked at after the game. I can just wait with king g7. Now if he plays queen e5 at any point, then there's simply no way to make progress for either side. I'm going to play f6, open up my bishop, and that's it. The only way for him to try and win is to go f4, takes. And now, for example, f6. Let's say we trade off a couple of pawns, something like this. So he has to play... let me waste the tempo. Let's say the pawn is not hanging, I'm sorry. Let's say he plays bishop e2 first, and I waste the tempo, and then he plays g5 and takes. All I have to do is make sure that the king doesn't reach e5, which I can always do. If here, well, if here, then here. And I always have moves to waste with my bishop. And that's it. There's just no way to make progress. Here's what I did. King h6 was actually a twofold, a double purpose move. The first thing was to threaten queen f4. The second was to threaten queen g6, which is an absurd idea. And after the game, Mr. Antunac said, yeah, it's as if it's like those people who try to beat grandmasters, who try to checkmate grandmasters and then lose. I mean, it made way more sense in Croatian, but anyway, you get the point. The other idea of queen g6 was to set up a trap in which I allow queen e5, which if he can play, he wins, as I already explained, because he gets into my position and wins everything. Of course, when I cannot trade. And if my queen is on g6, I cannot trade. But I thought I have a way to open up my bishop and get a big attack, which is probably going to end up in a perpetual check or in a repetition, because he's going to have to avoid being worse. So this is what happened in the game, and I'll show it to you now, and I'll show you the basic mistake I made in my calculation, after which queen g6 is, because of which queen g6 is just a losing move. I missed one thing, it's not a detail, it's a huge factor, and after that the game is just lost. So again, I knew I could hold. After the game I said, yeah, I should have played king g7 and held. He said, yeah, we analyzed, there were five people around the board, we all analyzed, couldn't win for white. After queen g6 though, this is exactly what I expected happened, and I was just losing on the spot. So queen e5, fine, expected. f6, queen d6, expected. Bishop e8, takes on e6, expected. Bishop f7, I wanted this to happen. Queen e7, I wanted this to happen. Bishop d5. Okay. This was all, I saw this position perfectly. And I thought, okay, this seems to be great. I gave up a pawn. My bishop is a monster. I've queen d3, I've queen b1. Seems great. He played bishop e2. My idea was, if he doesn't play bishop e2, I go queen d3. If he plays bishop e2, defending against queen d3 and, well, giving me a huge position, I go queen b1. And my idea was, well, okay, what does white do here? I'm threatening queen g1. This should be at least a perpetual. I missed queen f6, queen f5. Check. Trading queens. I saw that, okay, he can check me around and go for a perpetual. It's not as if I'm better. I tried. If it's going to be a draw, at least let it be a fighting draw. I completely missed that this trades queens. And therefore, after bishop e2, I, of course, did not go queen b1. I had to trade queens. Otherwise, I have no moves. I have no moves, and if I lose the b7 pawn, I just lose. I lose anyway, but okay. And now this is a simple win, which I knew, which he knew, which he executed in the next 4 moves. How do you win? You trade off the pawns and play bishop a6. Even if I get my bishop to c8, you go d5. After I take, you go c6. After I take, you queen your pawn, and that's it. So this is what happened. B5 takes. If I go A5, it's not much better. A5, he just goes B6 anyway, and after, I don't know, King F7, just go here. So B5, AB, King F7, B6, Bishop E6, Bishop A6, King E7. I cannot defend, as I said. If I defend, he just plays D5. Yeah, this is just over. Of course, this is a lost endgame. So, yeah, I resigned. What do you say about a mistake like this? I mean, again, this position, which I knew how to draw. I didn't deserve the draw, first of all. I should have lost out of the opening. But I managed to create this solid position which he cannot break, and I risked. I don't know why. I wanted to do something active. This was the first time in the game that I had an active idea. The first time in the game, and I just, for some reason, couldn't resist. I had 45 minutes on the clock. I should have invested more time to double, triple, quadruple check. I thought I have. I just kept missing that my queen is on b1, and therefore queen f5 is check and trades queens. Again, what do you say about a game like this? I got crushed out of the opening, not because I didn't know what to do, because I chose not to follow up my plan and ended up wasting 3 tempi because of it. Definitely a deserved loss. Congratulations to my opponent. He played really well. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.